In the quiet village of Obudu, where the morning air always smelled of firewood smoke and wet earth, people woke up with the sound of cock crowing and the voices of market women calling out their goods. Life was simple here. Children ran barefoot, chasing tires with sticks, while the elders sat under the big mango tree in front of Mama Ejiro's shop, drinking palm wine and talking about the news from town. In this same village lived Pastor Jonah, a tall, slim man with a voice like a talking drum, deep, warm, and powerful. When he preached, it was as if the words jumped out and danced into people's hearts. They said Pastor Jonah had the gift. He prayed for the sick, and they got well. He laid hands on barren women, and they gave birth to twins. Even the rain seemed to obey his voice. If he told it to stop, it would pause like a shy child waiting for permission. People loved him. They brought yam, gari, even live chickens as offering. Some gave him money, not because he asked, but because they believed his prayers brought blessings. And so, week after week, month after month, Pastor Jonah's church grew. At first, it was just a small thatched hut at the end of the village. Later, with people's donations, they built a zinc-roofed hall, painted white and blue, with a big wooden cross standing proudly outside. But as the church grew, so did the whispers. Obudu was not the only place with pastors. In the nearby towns, Ogoja, Ikom, Calabar, other men of God were also gathering crowds. One of them was Pastor Obesai, a man known for his booming laugh and flashy suits. He came from the city, but when he saw how people loved Jonah, he decided to open his own branch nearby. At first, both men respected each other. They even attended each other's programs. When Jonah had a crusade, Obesai would bring his choir to sing. When Obesai held a revival, Jonah would pray for the offering. But something began to change. It started small. At one crusade, Obesai laid hands on a crippled boy. The boy stood up and walked. The crowd shouted, "Power! Power!" And that night, people said Obesai was the true anointed one. Jonah heard these words, and though he smiled, deep inside, a small fire of jealousy began to burn. Over the next year, the two pastors began to compete, though they never admitted it. If Jonah held a 3-day crusade, Obesai would hold a 7-day one. If Obesai printed 100 posters, Jonah printed 200. If Jonah prayed for a sick woman and she got well, Obesai would visit the same woman and claim his own prayers sealed the healing. Slowly, they stopped visiting each other's churches. They stopped shaking hands in public. They preached sermons that, without naming names, attacked each other. Jonah would say, "Some pastors dress like kings but have no heart for God." Obesai would reply the next Sunday, "Some people think miracles end with stopping rain, but true power changes lives." The members noticed, and soon the village was divided. Some followed Jonah, some followed Obesai. The offerings grew, but so did the pride. One Harmattan morning, after a crusade in the city, Jonah sat alone in his room. The Harmattan wind whistled through the cracks in the window, and the smell of dry dust filled the air. He thought of Obesai's miracles, the way people shouted his name. Jonah wanted that, not just to be respected, but to be the greatest. That night, an old friend from Bible school came to visit. He was now a prophet based in Lagos. This man, Prophet Malachi, wore a big gold cross, a red prayer gown, and perfume so strong it filled the whole room. Malachi told Jonah, "My brother, there are levels to this ministry. If you want to move from local champion to international man of God, you need deeper power. And not all power comes from the same place." Jonah frowned. "You mean?" Malachi smiled, his teeth shining in the lantern light. "Not everything is taught in seminary. Some powers are ancient. If you want the crowd, the fame, the money, I can take you to the source." Jonah hesitated. But the image of Obesai's crowd filled his mind. He nodded slowly. "I'm listening." A week later, Jonah told his congregation he was traveling for prayers in Lagos. He packed a small bag, took a night bus, and met Malachi at Ojulegba. From there, they took another bus deep into Ogun State, where the roads were narrow and the trees formed a dark tunnel overhead. At the end of the path stood an old, mud-walled shrine. Inside, the air smelled of burnt herbs and something rotten. Candles flickered, casting shadows that danced on the walls. An old man sat in the corner, his eyes white like boiled rice, his skin wrinkled like old leather. He spoke in a voice that seemed to come from far away, "Welcome, servant of the people. Do you want to serve God, or do you want the world to serve you?" Jonah's mouth was dry. I want to win souls." The old man chuckled. "Win souls, or win fame?" Jonah looked at the floor. He did not answer. That night, the initiation began. They gave Jonah a small clay cup filled with dark liquid that smelled like blood and bitter cola. "Drink," the old man commanded. Jonah hesitated, but Malachi's eyes were fixed on him. Slowly, he lifted the cup to his lips. The liquid burned like fire as it went down, and his vision blurred. He felt his skin crawl, as though unseen hands were carving symbols into his flesh. The old man spoke again, "From this day, you will have power beyond the ordinary. But every moon, you must bring life, fresh blood, to renew it. And the greater the life, the greater the power." Jonah nodded, though his hands trembled. At first, he brought strangers, travelers passing through Obudu, beggars from far-off towns. He buried their bones deep in the shrine's forest. But as the months passed, the old man demanded more. Not just strangers, but people close to him. "A man's power grows when the blood is tied to his own soul," the old man said. Jonah's heart hardened. He became skilled at hiding his works. Missing persons reports increased, but no one suspected the beloved pastor. Soon, his miracles became terrifying in their precision. Blind eyes opened instantly. Cripples ran. Rain stopped mid-downpour. His name spread beyond Obudu. People came from Port Harcourt, Abuja, even from Ghana. Money flowed. Cars, lands, gifts. At police checkpoints, he never feared. He would simply smile, slip an envelope into the officer's hand, and they would wave him through without even opening his boot. The shrine grew richer. The old man told him, "Your final offering will open the gates of the nations to you." The final offering was his only son, Chima, a boy of 16, who had his father's smile and his late mother's gentle heart. Jonah's hands shook the day he decided, but his greed was greater than his love. He drugged the boy's food, and when Chima slept, he drove him, alongside 20 other kidnapped victims, to the shrine. That night, the heads of the 21 were taken, preserved in a large calabash, ready for the next ritual. 2 days later, Jonah was to take the heads to a deeper forest altar for final consecration. He loaded them into his SUV's boot, wrapped in black nylon and covered with sacks of gari. At the first checkpoint, the officers laughed as they took his bribe and waved him through. The second checkpoint did the same. But at the third, just before they turned into the forest road, stood Inspector Boko, a new, disciplined policeman known for refusing bribes. "Good evening, Pastor," Boko said, his eyes sharp. "Please, open your boot." Jonah smiled and held out an envelope. Boko pushed his hand away. "Boot. Now." Jonah's chest tightened. He fumbled with the keys, praying under his breath. The boot opened, and the smell of death filled the air. The black nylons were pulled aside, and the sight froze everyone, 21 severed heads, Chima's face among them. The police station was chaos that night. News spread faster than Harmattan fire. Crowds gathered, shouting, weeping. "Is this not the man who healed my child? Is this not the one who prayed for rain to stop?" Jonah's church members tore their clothes, some fainted, others cursed him. Mothers of the missing tore at his shirt, screaming his name in rage. Malachi was arrested the same night in Lagos, his shrine burned to the ground by angry youths. Pastor Jonah, once loved and respected, now sat in a cold cell, hearing the cries of the families he had destroyed. And so the village learned, greed and pride can destroy even the most gifted, and power without patience leads only to shame.